Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of What's Happening Now with C9 Solutions. As always, remember to like, share, and comment on this broadcast live, as there could be some information not only useful to yourself, but perhaps to a neighbor or a friend or someone of that nature. So tonight's broadcast is being brought to us by Will Technology, where Will Technology offers a host of government services, contractors where they support the military and NASA. They have been doing a wonderful job here at the Redstone Arsenal. So we appreciate Will Technologies and everything they have done for us. So tonight in the studio, we have a special guest with us, Mr. Maurice Scott, who is going to work to us or talk to us a little bit about financial literacy and I guess on the business aspect of how that goes. Maurice, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share this information. I think it's near and dear to my heart. I've experienced it personally, and I think that it just presents an opportunity for access for pretty much everyone. So once you're able to get good information, you can use it.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because we run an entrepreneurship class here, and we deal with a lot of young entrepreneurs who want to start their business. How important is financial literacy for them to get their business started?
Any business that wants to scale, more than likely, they don't have the capital to do it alone. So if you don't have capital, then you're going to have to lean on someone that's a partner. Oftentimes we lend to banks and other lending institutions. And if you want to go there, you better have good credit.
We tell them that all the time. I talk to them about that. I talk to them about, they often ask me about being a PG. Like, well, Charles, what is a PG? What is a PG? Like this, if I have a business, I should be able to do everything through my business. Like this, can you explain to them a little bit and to our viewers, what exactly does that mean?
A PG is a personal guarantor. And basically any lender, they want to get as many people on this hook as possible. These are, if they could get your business on the hook, they can get the owners on the hook, they can get anyone else on the hook. They want everybody that they possibly can to guarantee this loan. Whether it's your house, your assets, whatever. They want to make sure that they get repaid. It's any relationship of trust, especially with new small businesses. Unless you have like a company so big that, the assets take care of the business itself, like a company like, I don't know, Microsoft. Bill Gates doesn't have to personally guarantee.
Right. So with so much going on with this, tell us a little bit, how did you get started in wanting to take a personal interest in credit rebuilding of that nature?
Well, I had a personal issue. I had to deal with myself. I had a 406 credit score. My middle score was a 407.
Wow.
I had a high of 413, and I started when I got finished with college. I went out, read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I was going to be rich.
Right.
So I started investing in real estate. Didn't know what I was doing. Got some bad advice. They told me, hey, you can buy one property. I went and bought three. Right. I didn't have the money to fix the properties up and put them in condition to get either rented or sold, and really messed up my credit. So after I damaged my credit, I'm like, how do I rebuild? And people could tell me how to rebuild a house, but they couldn't tell me how to rebuild myself.
Right.
And how to rebuild my reputation, my financial reputation. So that's what gives you access to be able to buy. And so I found that that's actually more important than what you can buy with it.
Right. Right. A lot of times, I hear you talk about that 405 to 415. And I remember, growing up, I didn't think anything about credit. I didn't care. If someone said, well, Mr. Fry, if you don't pay that bill, we're going to put it on your credit. Is it going to stop me from getting paid? No. Am I going to go to jail? No. Put it on my credit. I don't care. But it wasn't until I realized when I went to go buy that first car, when I went to go buy that first home, how important that credit was to me and how damaged it was. And so much like you said, I did not know where to go. I did not know where to turn. I didn't know who to talk to because everyone else could tell me everything else on where I can go to get it.
Right.
But they couldn't tell me what I need to do to fix it.
That's 100%. That's actually where my journey started. I went to people that I trusted in the community, people that were respected, and no one had answers. I'm like, wait a second, we got credit scores and nobody can tell me how these credit scores work. How do I get a higher score? And this was, slightly before they start advertising credit scores on the internet and advertising credit scores on television, right? So I started reading and diving really into the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I'm like, wow, this is a law that nobody knows this stuff.
Right.
I'd ask individuals, do you know how a credit score is made up? And I'll tell you this, for 10 years, I asked that. I actually started giving out money to whoever would answer the question of how was the credit score made up.
Mm-hmm.
I gave out one $100 bill one time.
Wow.
In 10 years of seminars, one time.
Wow.
And that just let me know how big of a problem that we have.
Right.
And how important it is that we get this information before people fall into the hole. Because once you fall into the hole, it's so hard to get out. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of hard work and effort, and it takes change behavior too.
I remember listening to you at the wealth tour with the Huntsville Black Chamber they had, and you said some very profound things in there. And one of the things that stuck out to me when we talked about paying that debt or paying that credit card late, like this in the time frame you actually got before it's going to damage you a long time. Can you explain a little bit on that?
Okay. For the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you have really 1 to 29 days where you can be late. All right. That 30th day, that's when it actually reports on your credit report or can be reported on your credit report. So you really got a 29-day grace period from the date that it's due to the time that it has to be paid, right? So you're not most people don't get a late payment until it's 30 days late, right? But once you're 30 days late, for all intents and purposes, people, or companies that are reporting, they pretty much see that, hey, you're not really answering these phone calls. Maybe you forgot about us, right? Hey, there's an obligation over here. We want our money. If you think about it, just if I borrow some money from you and I'm supposed to pay it on the 1st, definitely by the 29th, you're significantly worried about whether you're going to get your money, right?
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
It looks like we already got a few questions in here. We ain't got started. Let me see here. We got Miss Pamela. She's saying, why does everyone drill into you to pay off your bills, yet when you pay off a credit card, it causes your credit score to drop? What's that about? So basically, why did everyone tell you to pay off your bills, but when you pay off that credit card, your credit score drops? Why is that?
It depends on your credit makeup. Okay. So in general, when you're answering any question when it comes to credit scoring, the reason why they don't tell everyone how they score you is because it's their private algorithm. Okay. It's their Wizard of Oz trick. Okay. And this trick benefits banks.
Right.
So those are, their customers. Now they spread out the customers recently by selling monitoring services and credit score. Get your credit score here. Now they can sell it to consumers. Right. But the invention of this product, guys, was for banks. Okay. And then they found a way so that they can make more money off of it. So they started selling this to everyone else. However, you don't know where you fit in these things called scorecards. Okay. FICO has a bunch of different scorecards, and what they're looking at is the data that's reported in your credit report. And that's the total credit report. Okay. Right. So they're measuring you against other people with similar credit profiles. And all of this is really just a big giant ball of risk. It's a trust thing.
Right.
Okay.
Another question they got there. She says, what would you say the average American credit score is?
That's a really good question, because the average American credit score is different for different demographics.
Oh, really?
Yes. For people that look like us, most people don't have a 620.
Wow.
The vast majority of people don't have a 620 credit score.
I would not have thought that.
Right. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Most people don't know about this term called trended data. Okay. The way that credit scores have been looked at in the past was a picture. It's a snapshot of the way you look right now.
Right.
So if you take a picture of me today, right, I don't look like I looked 2 months ago. Right? I've gained a little weight.
Right.
I've been out of the gym. Right?
Okay.
But if I could take a picture of me over time, I have a better idea of my behavior over time. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's what's called trended data. They're going to start taking pictures over time and communicating this information to potential creditors. This is how they pay over time. I'll give you an example of how that works.
Okay.
If you take a picture at one time, this individual has a $10,000 credit card, right? I'm going to use credit cards because that was the last question. This person has a $10,000 credit card. They have a $5,000 balance. This individual has another individual similar, has a $10,000 credit card. They have a $5,000 balance. One person started at zero and climbed to $5,000. The other person started at $10,000 and paid their way down to $5,000, right? If you're just taking pictures in time, the way that they used to do it, right, then both of them look similar. If you do it over time, you see one is headed in the right direction,
right.
The other is heading in the wrong direction. One is a greater credit risk over time. The other one's a lower credit risk over time. So it's all predictive analytics, right? And that's a kind of a big term for, are you gonna pay me my money back?
hey, I know that's right. So with that, you mentioned the different demographics and that average score that she mentioned on. Why is that? Why is it different?
It's different because we don't have the same access to credit, and we haven't historically.
Okay.
Right. And there's I have to lay a quick foundation. Can I?
Yeah, please.
There's this amazing poet. Actually, there's two poets, and they wrote this phenomenal piece of material, and it's Anthony Shep Crawford and Montel Jordan, and it was communicated to the world by Deborah Cox.
Okay. And
it was, how did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here.
Right.
Right. And that really pertains to us as Black people in America and minorities in general. Right. How did we get here? That's a really good question, isn't it? Because nobody's supposed to be where we're at financially in America.
Right.
Okay. But it started a while ago, long time ago. As a matter of fact, in the 1930s, there was no such thing as like the middle class prior to the 1930s. Right. In order to buy a house, you had to have about 40% down. 40%. Now, if you think about buying a house, how many people bring 40% to buy their house? They don't. Right. And then after, the Great Depression or whatever, then entered the FHA and they started insuring loans. Right. Which allowed all of these industries to erupt. You had construction, you had real estate agents, you had everybody that's eating off of these new loans, right? And the building of all these developments. You also had home ownership. This is something that was relatively new for America, and it created a middle class. Well, the very next year after that, 1935, they created redlining. Okay, redlining basically meant don't lend to Black people.
Right.
Predominantly Black areas, we're not going to let you participate in this. So you get a gap all the way until the 1960s, where the Equal Credit Opportunity Act comes into play, and you also have the Fair Housing Act as well, right?
Right.
All of this now allows us to participate. So we're already so much further behind. If you can imagine a house that appreciates for 30 plus years, you also have debt reduction for 30 plus years.
Right.
How much further along would the average individual will be? So that's how you see the wealth gap, right? Then you compound that with the Fair Credit Reporting Act was passed in the 1970s, right? In 1970, actually. It was passed in 1970 because there were individuals with positions of power that made decisions about whether you got the job. That's your credit report. They did a background check and they said, you're a Black guy, or you're a woman, or you're not of this country, right? Or you're too old, whatever. So you can't get the job, all right? Or you can't get the loan. So now that even furthers the wealth gap. So how do we get here is a really good question. It's a construct of all of these different banking and financial and racial issues that now place us where we're at. So the only way The absolute only way that we can catch up is, number one, we have to hold these financial institutions accountable. And the only way to hold them accountable is America speaks green. It always has.
Right.
Take their money from them through lawsuits.
So okay, all right. So you know, and I know we got another question, but I want to play devil's advocate if I can for a minute.
Okay.
All right. What do you say to those, especially those people who look like you and I, who would say, Maurice, that's hogwash. You know, I did it. You know, so can he, or so can she, or so can you. What do you say to those type of people who says, you know, that didn't happen because I was able to make it. I was able to buy a home. I was able to become successful in life. They just lazy, or they're just not wanting anything at all.
I think that there's a measure of truth to both. Right. I had a 406 credit score. I also had a 849 credit score. So 440 plus points later,
right?
I understand both sides of this coin. Okay. Same individual, but I've experienced 2 different lives when it comes to this. I've been to the mountaintop and I've looked over. And trust me, this is all on purpose.
Right.
It's all on purpose. And I had a business trying to help individuals get put into this position. It's amazing the indifference that you find to companies that do this they do this for their bottom line. They do this for a living.
Right.
They take advantage of people that don't have access to justice through attorneys, right? Because that's a luxury good. Most people can't pay for an attorney, right? So they take advantage of them because they know they're easy prey. So just because you escaped doesn't mean the person that was running right next to you, right, is going to escape.
Right.
The lion caught the easiest prey.
Wow. So let's see what our viewer has for this question. She says, a couple of them coming in. It says, I've heard it said that no credit is as bad or worse than bad credit. Is that if you don't already have a credit, no one wants to risk giving you on anything? Is that true?
I disagree with that.
Okay.
No credit means that at least you have a blank slate, right, to build from. Bad credit means that you're already in the hole, and you have to actually dig yourself out of that hole. Well, how do you dig yourself out of a hole?
Right.
You got to climb out of that hole.
Climb.
Right? You've dug yourself into a hole. You can't dig yourself out of the hole. And most people, then once they've gotten on this rat race, right? Have you ever seen like those hamsters that get on the wheels?
Yeah.
Right. And they're running as fast as they can. They never go forward, do they?
No, they don't.
That's oftentimes how debt works.
Right.
Once you get on this, first of all, we're already, just in general, most of the time we're advertised for subprime loans. Right?
True.
Subprime doesn't go to mainstream America to advertise to mainstream America. So buy here, pay here cars, they're not littered in the nicer areas, are they?
No, they're not.
Right. They're in our areas.
Yeah.
Why? To extract money from us. Why? Because we don't have access in general. We don't have access to the same levels of credit that they do.
Right.
Okay. They can't thrive in those areas because they can't sell in those areas. You understand? Right. So ultimately, the way that I look at it is what we have to do is arm ourselves with information. That's the one thing that we have to do. We have to do that. Prevention is worth way more than a cure in this industry. Right?
Right.
Like we talked about before, 130-day late payment can count against you for up to 7 years.
Sheesh. Wow.
Now that's devastating, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Now, mind you, over time your credit heals, but one late payment can count against you up to 7 years. 130-day late payment. Compound that by other things. Now you get on this hamster wheel, and how do you move forward?
Right.
Right. So the person, going back to that other question that you had, the person that says, I escaped, I got off the hamster wheel. Yeah, you're lucky. Most people don't.
No, they don't.
And the system's designed to put you on the hamster wheel until you either die owing people or you file bankruptcy.
Right.
Further damaging your credit, right? And then you have to go back to lenders with a whole new plan, or else guess what? You're on the highway back to bankruptcy.
Says here, what percentage of Americans would you say have a credit score of over 800? So if so many that you said barely have that 650, how many you think would have over 800?
That's a really good question. Over 800, I don't know the percentages exactly, but I'd say less than 20%.
Okay. All right.
Less than 20%.
Okay. Got a question from Mr. Gibson. It says, have you ever wondered why it's easier to sustain bad or horrible credit than gain access to healthy, good credit?
Why is it easier to gain access to bad credit?
Right.
Because it's targeted towards you. Right. And it's easier to access it because good credit terms means that they make less money on margin. Right. So for all intents and purposes, the best way for lenders to loan money is through credit cards. They can charge astronomical fees and astronomical interest rates that if you parallel that same amount of money into like a home loan, right? People couldn't afford it. They absolutely couldn't afford it. So on a $250, let's say that you have a $250 or $500 credit card, right? Can you pay a $39 late fee on that account?
A $39 one?
Yeah, $39 late fee. That's something that you've seen before, right?
I've seen it before, yeah.
$39 late fee on a $500 credit card.
Right.
If you stretch that out to $100,000, what would that late fee be on $100,000? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you chop it up and make it bite-sized, then you're loaning out the same amount of money as a bank.
Right.
But I'm making so much more in returns. That's why it's so easy to get a credit card. Right?
Good point.
You know what's the hardest loan to get?
Which is that?
A signature loan. Walk in the bank, sign, and walk out with money. That's the hardest loan to get. That's a loan that I would get from you, isn't it?
Right.
Hey, Charles, can I borrow some money? That's a signature loan. All of those things that are going through your head right now, that's what banks are going to ask you when it's time to borrow some money.
I know that's right. Hey, viewers, those who are watching, take time. If you know someone that needs to know this information that Maurice is putting out, he's giving out some good nuggets, some good information. Please take time to share this broadcast with someone so they can hear this and know what's going on and understanding their credit and understanding how that stuff works. So, in your business, your organization, your company, you guys actually fight for the people like me. Says, hey, Maurice, this is what's happening on my credit. Can you help me?
Yes. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. Everybody understands personal injury, right? If I slip and fall, I'm going to call a personal injury lawyer. But if someone puts something derogatory on my credit that doesn't belong, or I go to get a job and I get turned down because there's another Maurice Scott and his information's on my credit report. Right.
I've seen that before.
Right. Or someone says that I'm dead, right? Deceased. I go to apply for a mortgage and someone says, you know what, he's dead, right? And I get denied. All of these different scenarios are based off this same information. Lenders make decisions off of information. Right. So those are financial injuries. That's what we do. We're a financial injury attorney. Okay. Fair Credit Reporting Act is just one of the things that we do. Like, have you ever heard of robocalls?
Yes.
Okay. Oftentimes they're just scams, right? But sometimes you have individuals in which they'll get a brand new cell phone. Okay. They'll get a new cell phone number or whatever. And they start getting phone calls from the previous owners, debt collectors and or creditors. So, you get a new cell phone number and they leave you these messages, automated messages. Hi, if you're Maurice Scott, please give us a call at Comcast for right?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's a violation of the law.
Right.
You didn't give them consent to call you, right? But it's so pervasive right now that it's information. How do you stop it? Well, financially, you stop it.
Right.
Through the law. That's what we do.
You know, you said something I want to touch on real quick. If I can get the producer, can we pull up United Legal so we can show our audience who they are like this? So this is you and your business partner, Mr. Collins. You guys are the team there that help those who are in need from credit injury.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
and we work with counsel all over the country as well.
Okay.
Like as a matter of fact, I just got back from a conference, a consumer rights litigation conference, and it's about 1,000 attorneys from all over the country. Excuse me. You have class action attorneys, you have private attorneys, you have legal services attorneys all over, and then we're all fighting the same fight.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the common themes that was woven through the conference is this is a racial justice, economic justice issue, right? And to see a majority white audience directly understand that this is an issue that faces low income and Black people disproportionately, right? Disproportionately. It's not even a question. Most of their clients are us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is and in consumer protection, most of the consumer protection attorneys like myself, they don't charge a fee. It's contingency based. So our clients, if they had to pay us up front, they couldn't afford it. Like most people can't afford a lawyer. Right. So if we don't take the case on contingency, most people couldn't even sue and protect themselves.
Wow. You know, you mentioned something about collections and debt collectors. You know, what do you say to people who say, well, that debt I had was with Dillard's, but now here's this collection agency trying to collect on behalf of this. I'm not paying them. Like this, what do you say to those type of people who look at it that way?
This is the thing. They have rules in place. Okay. The rules are the law. Okay. If these people can prove that they're the rightful owners of the debt, they've been assigned it, that they're collecting the right amount of the debt, and they're not trying to stick you with unnecessary fees or interest rates and interest that they don't deserve, right?
Right.
You have an obligation to pay those individuals.
Right.
Okay. Now, mind you run them through the gauntlet of all of your consumer protection rights, right? Because ultimately, in order to make the best bargain for yourself, because most people are dealing with limited income, right? So you want to make the best bargain for yourself. You need to find out if you have leverage. Leverage helps with settlement and negotiation, right? If I owe you $5,000, but I know that you've inaccurately reported my credit for the last year and I've been disputing it, I have leverage. Right? Hey, can we work out a deal? Because even though I may owe you $5,000, you may be paying yourself after I sue you. That makes sense, right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Hey, I like that. So, in dealing with financial literacy in our community, what do you think is harming us the most?
What I believe is harming us the most is that we're not taking this seriously in the prevention stage. Okay. Before we get involved in borrowing money, because anytime you're borrowing, right? That means that you have the ability to default. Okay. And it's so devastating, and it has so many consequences for a small mishap, right? Oftentimes when I see individuals put things on auto pay, right? And they may have an issue with their auto pay. It may be that, oh man, I forgot to update my bank account, or I forgot to do, right? And then now what you had a solution for, you no longer have the solution for. And that little slip up costs you, I've seen someone's credit score dropped 135 points from one late payment. Changed everything.
Man.
I remember I had a client that was referred to me by the vice president of a bank. This individual paid their bill, right? Like they always do. However, the company didn't credit it. This guy owned multiple businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go into great detail, right? But let's just say astronomical amount of money that it was going to cost this guy. I can tell you it was like in the millions of dollars for that one $25 late payment.
Wow. Man.
Loans, credit lines, everything was halted because of there's this thing called risk-based lending.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they look at your credit and then they make adjustments based off of your likelihood to default.
Right.
So if I'm loaning you $900,000 and you just missed a payment of $25, what do you think I'm going to do with my $900?
You're going to take that.
Whoa, wait a second. I don't know. If you can't pay 25, then
Right.
you definitely can't pay 900.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the devastating ripple effect that has on individuals is astronomical. So I think that the single most important thing that we need to do is protect our information.
Mm-hmm.
I tell young people that are, get into it, they understand, don't play with my name.
Right.
Right. Don't play with my name. And if someone's communicating false information about you, they're playing with your name.
Exactly.
Right. I can give you a scenario of how accuracy and completeness matters. Right. Maurice was involved in a robbery. How do you now feel about Maurice?
Man, I'm feeling like, man, why is he sitting beside me? I need to look out for my equipment in here. Let me get tightened up here.
Right. Now,
Right.
Imagine if I added a little piece of data to that and made it more complete. Maurice was the victim of a robbery. Changed everything, didn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So when information is reported under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it has to be accurate and complete.
Okay.
Okay. And it can't be misleading. If you just said, hey, Maurice was involved in a robbery. Yeah, I hear you. You communicate that to someone. They're like, hey, they're tucking in and locking doors and covering purses. Right.
Right.
But if I'm the victim, then it's all understandable because anybody can be a victim of a robbery. You understand? So that's why it's so important that our information be communicated properly. And we have to be soldiers of our information. Okay. You've seen artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new wave of the future. It's not making any decisions except for off of what? Information. So we're getting deeper in this information.
Now you brought up AI. Is AI part of that reason why you're saying that things are about to get worse when it comes to your credit?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that.
Yeah.
The more information that's out there, the more information that could be damaging. Right. So AI I don't know if you've been following it closely, but there was a lawyer that got disciplined because
I heard about it.
You heard about that?
Yes.
Yeah, he got disciplined because he used ChatGPT to write his briefs. However, ChatGPT just made up cases. And the thing is, he thought that he was using, great revolutionary technology. However, without the right input, you can't get the right output. That's why the information is so important. And it's so important that we protect our information. Right. Okay. Make sure that the information that is communicated about you is accurate. Make sure it's complete. Make sure that they get a good opportunity to make a good decision about you.
Now, for those who are watching, for those viewers who are watching, and those who will view this long-term effect down the road, for someone to get a hold of their credit report, an accurate credit report, is it better to pay for a credit report or to use your one free credit report a year?
Okay, there's a couple of different things. There's little traps that's used against a lot of consumers. It's called arbitration clauses. Okay. Right. And oftentimes with a lot of bad actors and a lot of companies, what they don't want to do is that they don't want their bad acts exposed. Okay. Right. So they put these arbitration clauses in a lot of consumer contracts, right? Whether it's your credit card, if you're going to get a cell phone, if you're going to get, cable at your house, right? A lot of these companies put arbitration clauses in their contract because they don't want you to join a class action. right? Because the class action exposes a lot of what they're doing and it punishes them, right? So they have this in their agreement, and then they hide it away in arbitration. So if I take $20 from you, I'm a big bank, right? With 1 million customers, and I take $20 from each individual. Would you sue somebody over $20?
I probably wouldn't.
Probably not, right? But if I took $20 from 1 million people, I just made $20 million, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
What's the likelihood of me getting sued?
Very high now.
It's very high, but if each one of those have individual arbitration clauses, they can't buy. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So now, unless you have a government agency that comes in and protects your consumer rights, that's how companies extract money. It's like the cost of doing business.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Got it.
So the system's set up like that.
Right. Got it. Man, I tell you what, folks, guys, those who are viewing, hey, Maurice is giving some great information out here. Please take time to share this information with those you think need it. Maurice, I definitely appreciate you coming in here tonight and talking to us a little bit on this financial literacy and this credit report and helping us understand it. Is there anything that you would like to share before we proceed to close?
There's a couple of things I'd like to share. Number one, it's really important that you get your information from annualcreditreport.com. If you're going to look at your credit report, go to annualcreditreport.com. That way you can avoid those traps like the arbitration clauses that some companies use to try to tie you up in arbitration, so that you can't call them to the carpet and or band together. Another thing that I think is really important is to take the time to actually do this. You have no idea how valuable your information is. That's the reason why everybody wants it. That's why they're making all of these decisions about it. If you hear big data companies, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these individuals, they always want you to get their app, right? Their app gets more data. We're getting into a data-driven society, and they're making decisions based off of your information, okay? Right. So that's how important and that's how valuable your information is. It's actually more valuable than the cash that you have in the bank, because it predicts how you'll live in the future, what you'll do in the future, how you have access. So I really would I want to hit home with this one thing, and that is guard your data, protect your information. You have no idea how valuable it is, and it could be the difference between an excellent life or a bad life.
Right. Wow, that is awesome, man. Hey, I definitely appreciate that. I'm definitely going to take some of these nuggets myself and implement that in my own personal life and then with my business and what we're doing, and make sure I share that with our students or entrepreneurial classes as well. Hey, guys, those who have been tuning in, hey, we appreciate y'all for coming in and sitting and talking with us. And we appreciate all those great questions that we had out there. Always remember, your yesterday is not your today, and your today is not your tomorrow. Good night.